Okay, hello everyone. We will get started. Thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you online for this very special session. We're excited to announce this yet again. I did do a webinar similar to this one in August, but it was very beginning stages of us announcing this program. So we wanted to run this webinar again for those of you who have learned about the program over the last couple of months. We have officially launched, well, as of August, we've officially launched our employer sponsorship program, and it's exclusively for our executive and our accelerated MBA applicants and enrolled students. I've been talking to many students and applicants over the last couple of months about this program. I've received quite a few applications, so I know there's a lot of excitement about this program. And so today's webinar is a short session where we're going to walk through the key details. My name is Emily Saunders. I am the director of the Accelerated MBA program. I'm based at our Smith, Toronto location, which is right downtown, close to Union Station. My goal for today is to spend about 20-25 minutes to talk about this program, what it is, the rationale behind it, the application process, etc. And then, of course, at the end, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Throughout the presentation, if any questions come up, you can just drop them in the chat, and I will do my best to get to them by the end of the session. I'd also like to, of course, acknowledge that the Smith School of Business at Queen's University in Kingston is situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory, and Smith, Toronto is situated on traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are very grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. Before I get into the details of the Employer Sponsorship Program, or ESP as we call it, I just want to spend 1 or 2 minutes talking about the Accelerated MBA program. We have a monthly webinar on this program. I believe there's one next week where we walk through the key details in much more detail. But for those of you who are new to the program, it is a 12-month program. It starts every January and runs till December. It can be completed while you work. So while it is considered full-time, you don't need to quit your job. You can continue working and you can take the program from your home city anywhere in Canada. It's 4 class days a month. So you have class every other week, all day Sunday and half day Monday. And alongside that, there are 3 intensive on-site sessions, 2 in Kingston, 1 in Toronto, where the entire class comes together and spends significant periods of time together, taking class, going to social events, doing team building, getting to know Kingston and Queens. We use a team-based approach, which means you take the program within a team and you have a ton of support. In addition to your team, you have a team coach, a career coach. You might have some personal development in there. Of course, you have access to our amazing Career Advancement Center. So it is really an immersive experience, despite you being in your home city during the majority of the program. So let's get to what we are here to talk about today. We're really excited about this new matching initiative that was launched intended for our incoming accelerated MBA class. So that's the class that's starting in January. It's called the Employer Sponsorship Program, or as I said, we call it ESP for short. The program is designed to encourage and incentivize both prospective students and their employer to partake or to partner, I should say, and be together in this journey of an MBA for their top talent. So for every $1 that your organization invests in your MBA, up to a maximum of $10,000, we, Smith, will match that and take it off of your tuition for a total potential contribution of $20,000. Canadian, I should say. Corporate sponsorship is obviously not a new concept, and every year we have students that receive some financial support from their company. But over the years, we have seen that number slide, especially over the last decade or so. And our goal is to kind of reignite those opportunities for our students. More than ever, negotiating employer sponsorship is a crucial part of the application process, and we're committed to helping our students in that process. So as you'll hear throughout the program or the session today, students are ultimately responsible for securing that sponsorship, but we'll provide the resources to help you have that conversation with your employer. I do want to note that this is not a scholarship. It's separate from our entrance scholarships. There are other scholarships. We have a Forte Foundation scholarship. We have a scholarship for Black students, for Indigenous students. This is separate from that, so this can be on top of that. It's not merit, it's not needs-based. It's really straightforward. If your company will sponsor you up to $10,000, anywhere in between there, basically between $1,000 and $10,000, will match that and take that off your tuition. So let's take a moment to kind of talk about the rationale behind this and why we launched this. It's one of the number one questions I get, what's in it for each of the stakeholders? And we'll get to that on the next slide. We recently launched a 5-year strategic plan here at Smith with many priorities. And one of those priorities was to increase the business school impact on external communities and also to ensure an inclusive learning environment for our students. So that led to many conversations around supporting student success. And we talked a lot about how we can engage organizations and help incentivize both students and their employers to partner in kind of this support of business education. We didn't know it at the time, but I do think, more so now than ever with the current geopolitical climate, we're really focused on how we can strengthen our B2B relationships with industry here in Canada to kind of drive positive change within our communities, while also helping our MBAs become, more accessible and more inclusive for our students. So our answer, as you know, is the employer sponsorship program, or it's one of our answers to work towards these strategic priorities. And it's specifically for our professional MBA program. So those programs where students are continuing to work full-time during their MBA journey. Corporate sponsorship, as I said, it's not a new concept across MBA programs, but we wanted to provide kind of more of a structured and more collaborative approach to really help organizations understand the value of an MBA and the value of supporting their employees and their top talent in that journey. So we're really confident that this dollar for dollar matching program kind of offers significant advantages, not just to us, but also to prospective students, all of you listening today, as well as employers. So let's look at each stakeholder here. So for us, of course, as I've already talked about, this works towards our commitment to make these degrees more accessible. And as a result, that makes these degrees, the student profile quite a bit more diverse and also higher quality, because we're making these degrees accessible for people who may otherwise not have had the opportunity to take them. And it's allowing us to also strengthen our relationships with our corporate partners. For prospective students, the people listening today, it's quite obvious. This is quite a big reduction in the financial burden, and hopefully also there in the long term increases your ROI. And hopefully by taking an MBA and being able to take an MBA at a more accessible price point, you can accelerate your career progression. The goal also is that this is a partnership with your current employer. So we are hoping that this allows you to have those conversations with your manager, with HR, with leadership, and ultimately strengthen your relationships with the organization and reinforce a long-term commitment between the two of you. For the employers, this is an opportunity for leadership development of some of your top potential leaders. And it's also a powerful retention tool. So in supporting employees, they're hopefully, feeling valued by the organization and will stick around for a long time and bring back what they've learned from the MBA to their role. So now let's take a moment to kind of unpack this employer sponsorship program and talk about how it works and how you can apply, what the eligibility criteria are, et cetera. So this program is open to all prospective AMBA students. So that means people who have already been enrolled and are ready to start in January, people who are currently interviewing or are candidates and have applied, but they haven't finished the process yet, or just people who are starting to inquire about this MBA and are interested in it. It is conditional, of course, on you eventually accepting and staying enrolled in the program with Queen's as the primary institution of your enrollment. There are some limitations. So, of course, you have to be a student, you have to stay enrolled in the program, but there are some cases where it might not make sense, or you might not qualify. And what I encourage you to do is kind of book a call with me, and we can have those discussions one-on-one. But in the case of a family business that's quite small, or if you're an entrepreneur and run your own organization, you may not qualify for this program. Also, I'll talk about this more later, but we do expect you to stay with your sponsoring employer for the duration of the program. Sorry about that. I lost my headphones there. So I just want to make sure I am all locked in. Okay. So I should state that given those, that disclaimer, this program might not be for everyone. In many cases, a sponsoring employer may ask an employer may ask an employee to stick with the organization for a certain amount of time. often we hear, 2 years. So if you're looking to make a big pivot during the program or directly after, and you expect your organization will want you to stay, then you might not want to be tied down. But if you plan to stay at your organization for the next few years and build a career there, and you feel that they will sponsor you in doing that, I think this is a great fit for you. So the application process is incredibly straightforward on both sides for you and your employer. The heavy lifting really is in you having those conversations with your employer, with HR, with your manager to try to negotiate sponsorship. And that is on you. We will support you in that. I'm happy to have conversations about making the case, but it is your responsibility to secure that support. From there, you do need to identify an employer contact. It should be your direct supervisor, and the two of you need to fill in a form together. It's a very straightforward form. I'll show it to you in a moment. Agreeing to the terms of the program, have it signed by both you and your employer, and then send it to me by the submission deadline, which is about a month before the program starts. So we're saying December 1st. I will then reply to your employer if they were copied on the email and make sure that they are in agreement that everything that's in this form is correct. And then you will be considered and normally hear back with us from us within a week or so. So this is what the form looks like. The first page is just kind of all the requirements, both on the student side as well as the employer side. And then that's just a one-page form you need to fill in. You need to include all your information, your manager's information. As I said, it should be the direct manager, your direct supervisor. The agreed amount, sponsorship amount, if it's over 10,000, that's great, but we will just match up to 10,000. And if it's even just 1,000, that's great too. Of course, every little bit helps. And then we will ask you to sign it. We do encourage that the just sponsors you by sending you the sponsorship dollars, but of course they can also pay Smith directly. And then we'll ask both of you to sign the document and send it to me. So on the student side, and what we kind of expect of you, of course, we want you to meet the academic regulations of the program and the university's student code of conduct. You have to make sure that all of your program payments are up to date. And as I said, we do expect you to stay with the organization throughout the duration of the program. We are signing an agreement with them that they are sponsoring you, and we're building a relationship as a result. We would like you to finish the program with them. And if you do decide to leave, that is fine. But at that point, we will not continue with the rest of the reimbursement amount. Our reimbursement piece, so let's say it's $10,000, is spread over 3 payments, which is January 1st, May 1st, and September 1st. The employer requirements, as I said, it's quite straightforward. We ask that they work with the participating employee, you, to agree how much they're able to sponsor you for. They need to then identify a contact and who will be the main point of contact with us when we confirm all the information, and then they need to review and sign the form. We do have some great resources available for you to help in having those discussions with your employer that are available to download, and I'll show you where in a moment. But it's called the Case for Corporate Sponsorship. It has been updated to include all of the information about the employer sponsorship program. And it does kind of a great job of providing an overview of not just the program, but also the value of the program and why this might be something they want to consider. We like to say, think of this as your first MBA project, making the case for sponsorship to your employer. And we're here to support you in that. As I said, if you want to book a call with me at any point, talk about that before you have the conversation with your manager or HR, I am happy to do so. So this is where on the website you can find that download. You go to program details, you click on program fees and financing, and then scroll down and you'll see your case for sponsorship under corporate sponsorship. Okay, so that is the most of the information. I do have some kind of common questions here that I'm going to go through, and then of course, if there are any other questions that you have, you can just drop them in the chat, and I will make sure to get to them. So some of this is kind of just me reiterating the key points. What's the minimum, maximum amount? We'll match anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000. So anywhere kind of in between there. Often employers, have $2,000 or $2,500 that they'll put towards professional development throughout the year. for each employee. If they're willing to put that towards your MBA, then that would be considered as employer sponsorship dollars that we would match. What are the options around how the employer would pay or provide support? So as I said, the preferred model is where the student pays their program fees directly and the employer reimburses the student. But if the employer prefers to send the payment directly to the school, that is fine. We can arrange that with them. But I do always want to stress that this agreement is primarily between the employee and the employer, and it's ultimately your responsibility as a student to manage that portion, that sport sponsorship portion directly with them. What is the deadline? So as I said, we definitely need this to be agreed upon before the start of the program, and there's quite a bit of paperwork to process. So we ask that you submit that form by December 1st. And as I said, we normally get back to you within a week with confirmation. If there are some extenuating circumstances or you need a bit more time, that is fine. You can let me know and we'll work through that. But we definitely do need this agreement in place by the start of the program, which is January 7th. What happens if you withdraw from the program at any point? So if that does need to happen, my apologies, the program fee credit is rescinded and not applied to the student's outstanding balance. So as I said, there's 3 payment dates: January 1st, May 1st, and September 1st. We will divide up the sponsorship dollars that we are paying across those 3 payment dates. So if you withdraw partway through, then the remaining payments will not be made. Can a candidate stack or access multiple awards and scholarships? Yes, as I said, this is not a scholarship. It is not merit-based. So you are still welcome to apply to any of the other Smith scholarships, and you will definitely qualify for those. And what happens if a participating student has some sort of disruption with their employer? So for example, you change organizations or you have to change roles and no longer are you able to be sponsored. Again, it's ultimately your responsibility to manage that portion, but we do expect that you stay with the employer for the duration of the program or for the duration of receiving those sponsorship dollars to stay a part of the employee sponsorship program. So, and the remaining amount that we have pledged will not be paid if you do leave your organization during the program. So how do you get started? Sorry, that should say MBA, that's my mistake. But of course, the first thing I would say is to go online and download. And actually, I think as a follow-up email to this webinar, we'll copy the case of sponsorship. But in the meantime, if you're eager, you can go online and download it under the fees and financing section. Timing matters, of course. I know we don't have a lot of time before January starts. If you can, if there's a performance conversation coming up, and you can have this as part of that conversation, I think that always really helps. I do think you need to prepare for the conversation. You need to show up with a good business case, show that you've put your thought into it, and then hopefully use this program as a trigger to have the conversation. And I think it's important to seek out champions and advocates, other people who have taken MBAs, specifically Smith MBAs always help within the organization. Were they able to get sponsorship? What was their experience? What did they take from the program? Use their input in building your business case. So if, of course, you have any questions, again, we will follow up via email after this webinar to thank you for joining us today and also to copy or to attach the application form as well as the brochure. But if you would like to further, have a conversation, ask questions about your specific case, you can contact me at emily.saunders@queensu.ca. Always happy to have those conversations. One question I've got quite a bit, and I saw one come through, is, is this just for this year? So at this point, this is a pilot project. So it's intended for the class that's starting in January 2026. Of course, we will then be evaluating how it went. I can say that so far I've had many applications come through for January, which is very exciting. And if we deem this to be a success and it's working on both sides, then we will consider it for January 2027. But at this point, this is a pilot program, and the only guarantee is that we will offer it for this coming January class. I don't see any other questions. So, and I know that was a lot of information that you might need some time to process. So, like I said, we will be sending a follow-up email after this webinar. I will make sure that my email is in there. So if you have any specific questions, you are welcome to reach out. But I hope to see many of your applications soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.